everyone. How are you? It's a little awkward for me. I'm holding a microphone in my left hand, so please bear with me because I'm a little out of commission with my right hand. But my name is Tracy Handerhan, and I'm the superintendent of schools, and I am incredibly grateful for you to come out this evening. I am so grateful to our panel tonight. The topics that are going to be discussed tonight are near and dear to my heart. For those of you that may not be aware, I was a high school principal for 13 years, so when you are on, even as a bystander, some of these journeys with families, it's, it really does change your life. It changed your life, and I have grown so much from the learning that I've had from families that I've worked with, but also from the professionals that I've worked with. I can't even tell you the amount of talent that we have that is available in mental health, in working with families and children with substance abuse. We are so fortunate in the state of New Jersey for the resources that are available. And I am incredibly grateful to that. This evening, I would also like to introduce someone, the new acting principal at Wall High School, Dr. Peter Righi, and I'd like to welcome him. And I will pass the mic to a very able...
I won't need this, Aaron. Thank you for the welcome. It's a shame there aren't more of you here, but I was talking to one of the presenters who sits left, and he said something I think very telling. If one person gets something out of this program, it's good. It's great. So I've been in education 40-something years, and I'm back out of retirement. And I'll tell you, this is my 8th day here. And just my perception of the school and the kids, they're awesome. I've been in a lot of high schools. These kids are the most welcoming, respectful kids I've ever met. Truth. And I was also a high school principal for a long time, a superintendent for a long time. And I'll tell you, you hear a lot out there, a lot of rumor, a lot of fiction about drugs, alcohol, and behavior. And it's nice to have experts give us the facts, because in today's day and age, we never know what the facts are, unfortunately. But we will get them tonight. And I believe in telling kids the truth and with factual information. No scare tactics like when I was a kid. Those don't work, I think. But I thank you all for coming. I thank our staff for putting this together. I wish I could pronounce your name and just on the stage in my group. I could bring a reader. I'm still learning these, so thank you, and I'll just turn this back over.
Thank you. I probably don't need a microphone. You all can everyone hear me in the back? Yep. Okay. is wonderful, also a great support mechanism for our students.
Thank you. Is the microphone okay, or is it too much? It's always fun to go first. Let me just say that.
God bless you.
Yeah,
God bless you. Right behind you.
yeah, okay, thank you. I know, I feel the love. So as Alysa said, my name is Deidre Lonza, and I'm the Senior Director of Operations for New Hope. I also have a private practice in Brielle, and I'm a resident of Wall Township. So it's extra nice for me to be here because I feel like I'm, in my hometown. For those of you who don't know about New Hope, we are a nonprofit. We've been doing this for over 40 years. We work with adults and adolescents. We work with adolescents and adults seeking treatment for substance use disorders and co-occurring disorders. We have inpatient, outpatient, halfway house. We kind of run the whole gamut. For adolescents in particular, we have outpatient services in Freehold, we have outpatient services in Long Branch, and we have inpatient short-term residential and detox services in Marlboro. It's always a difficult decision to send a young person to an inpatient program. Last resort, right? We don't want to take an adolescent out of the home, but sometimes there's a great benefit and a great value. For short-term residential, we're the only one in the state, the only adolescent withdrawal management. It's short-term. It's 60 to 90 days average like to stay while they're with us. They do school. They get one-on-one counseling. They get group counseling. They get family education, family program. It's really an all-inclusive kind of a program. And withdrawal management, like I said, the only one in the state, which is kind of your traditional detox. Often people ask me what's new, what's trending. I would say the one thing that we're seeing, and you'll probably hear this more than once, is fentanyl. Fentanyl is real. And I'd say since the pandemic, what we're seeing is a lot more kids coming to us because they need detox, because they have overdosed, because they've come to us through crisis. We weren't seeing that necessarily a couple of years ago. And a lot of the driving force is fentanyl. We have a lot of kids who come in and think that they're smoking marijuana, and they're shocked to find out that they're actually testing positive for fentanyl. So that's something that's very real. And like I said, it's a balancing act, right? How do you determine whether or not you're going to put somebody into inpatient, but it's a life or death fight. It's a real disease. The other thing that people ask me is how do I refer, or how do I get them in? We recognize that the window is very, very small, especially with adolescents, so we pride ourselves on really, we can move quickly. So all you need to do is anybody can refer, they can call us up, they do a pre-screen with the adult or the young person, and then we determine what's the right level of care. We're not going to put somebody in inpatient if they really are going to do okay with outpatient. And maybe that's a good place to stop. Like I said, love going first. Who's next?
I just want to say a little caveat. So New Hope has services from outpatient all the way through residential, right? The full continuum of care that they have right here in Monmouth County. But they also have sent staff historically, not since pre-COVID, but we're going to get back to it. We usually have Jason, one of their staff members, who brings adolescents not from this area, they're usually from somewhere far away, so there's no conflict, no one will know them. But we'll bring them in. Jason will bring the students in my office, and I'll bring students into my office to have a conversation with them, so that my students who might be struggling with similar issues can hear from the students from other youth their age who are in residential and have at least, most of them have completed at least 2 months, almost 3 months, by the time they come into the MAR building, because we want to make sure that the students are healthy and they basically kind of graduated to a different level. But we're very grateful to New Hope for bringing that service to us and also bringing in new speakers.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because it is a wonderful program. It's a win-win for the kids who are coming. There's power in telling your story. And for the kids who are in the chairs on the receiving end, I can talk about all day long what we do and the dangers of, but to hear it from a peer is really much more powerful, so we do recognize that. It's a great program.
And New Hope was just here last week for faculty outreach day. Okay, so we're going to move on to
So again, Larry Thompson, thank you for being here. There's so much suffering and stress and anxiety post-COVID as if there wasn't enough pre-COVID. So there's a lot to do, and it's great to be doing with you guys. Thank you. Integrated care concepts. We are integrated mental health. That means that we believe that Western medicine and holistic approaches can work well together. So we provide a continuum. We have 5 prescribers, 55 therapists. We are the Baskin-Robbins of therapy. We got a flavor for everybody. And Ken's heard that joke at least 15 times by now. But it's still a good joke, right? It's a good joke, right? So we have Santre, Art, Eco, Equine. We do all the T's, the DBT, the CBT. We are trauma-informed, which is very important to us, right? We want people to come in to feel respected while they're doing the hardest thing possible. A parent coming in with their child, it's so humbling as a parent not knowing how to help your child. So when you come into a facility, you want to feel safe and not judged. Right? My child's hurting, and I can't make it better. Right? Or the adolescent coming in and raising their hand for help. What could be more difficult than a young person saying, all my friends seem fine, but I'm not? Yeah, it's kind of freaky, right? So having the adolescent really feel heard and seen. There is not one fix, there is not one answer. Can we take time to find the answer for that family and for the individual? So we have 5 prescribers of medication, 55 clinicians, and 10 mind-body people. It's really hard to learn something new when your head's on fire. So how do you go from trauma brain functioning to learning brain functioning? These very ancient technologies, embodied presence helps a person show up for the medicine, per se. So families, children, adolescents can come in and get a a la carte menu of services, right? So we have come in for our DBT groups, stay for our trauma-informed yoga group, meet our prescriber, have us stay for family therapy. So it's not uncommon that we have families staying in for 2, 3, 4 hours of care a week with us. As we custom build a la carte, that's going to work best for that family, because there isn't a one-way approach to anything, right? We have locations in Jackson, Montclair, Tinton Falls, and Eatontown. We've been around for about 17 years now. We're becoming less of a secret. Been around for a while. Prior to starting Integrated Care Concept 17 years ago, I was the first director of mobile response for children and families for both Ocean and Mountain counties, back when it was an initiative, and now it's a whole division. It's so funny how things change. That means I've gotten really old. It feels a little bit weird, right? So really our approach comes down to understanding that addiction makes sense. It's solving a problem for the kid. And we can sit back and lecture the kid or lecture the family, or we can find out how that problem makes sense for that kid. In the East, it's called a misinformed attempt at well-being. I'm using something as a misinformed attempt at well-being. You know, trauma is the gateway drug. And how do we work through all the smoke and mirrors to get down to what's really mechanizing the whole issue? And taking time to do that. And your title is so eloquent, right? Who has time? I mean, what we're doing right now is very radical. We've all stopped to be here today. This is radical. You know, part of your head saying I should be someplace else right now. I should be making dinner, or doing dishes, or laundry, but I'm here. And so it's radical when you stop. Because something happens when you stop. In therapy, when we make people stop and start talking, 2 things happen. One thing is a person overhears himself say things they forgot they knew. You know, I always knew I was smarter than my choices. There's always that voice inside me who always told me what to do, but I never could pay attention. And the second thing that happens when people stop and start talking, which is the goal of my whole profession, is they hear things from themselves they didn't want to know. I really didn't want to know I heard that much. I really didn't want to know I carried all that. It's much easier in this FOMO, Amazon, distracted world not to pay attention to myself. And then when pain shows up, I'd have no idea, because Amazon can't drop off hope by a drone to my door by the end of the day. Right, so we try to do something radical in Integrated Care Concepts. We try to slow down and relate. We live in a relationally deprived world. 21st century is a relationally deprived world. Can we relate again and have the courage to do so with ourselves and other people? And that's kind of what we try to do. We also have an IOP and partial program at our Tinton Falls location. Anxiety, depression, trauma, and co-occurring, because when you work with adolescents, it's all co-occurring. Kind of all co-occurs go together, right? So we do that as well. I could talk to a chair and have a good conversation. Talk about Scott.
Just a little caveat, you have Ken Guerrero is in the back corner, he's hiding back there, but he's with CBC Behavioral. He's been in the field, I think we've been in the field the same amount of time. I think so.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
And he is another wonderful resource that I use here for our students, for your children. Just know that they're a phenomenal resource. They also have mobile response, right? So, I mean, I just want to put that out there that Ken's back there if you feel like you want to talk to him later. So today we now have Megan Reeves, who is a treatment advocate for Recovery Centers of America and has been working in the field of substance use disorders for over 10 years. Megan has been in recovery for over 13 years and does extensive work with individuals and their families to assist in providing guidance and support working towards long-term sustainable recovery. And a fun fact, one of our former security guards, who's a retired police officer, works with Megan.
Oh yeah, that's great. I'm so used to like introducing myself like, hi, I'm Megan, I'm an addict. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for asking me to be on this panel. Yes, I work for Recovery Centers of America. It's a huge company. We have 10 sites throughout the country. Our mission is to assist 1 million individuals in finding long-term sustainable recovery. We're not quite there yet. But really, I think the reason that I was asked to come here is to not so much pitch the program I work for, because there's plenty of brochures on the table out there. I will say that we do provide excellent treatment. I send my family members there. But really, I'm here today to share more about like the importance of, I look at this room, right? I look at these providers and all these resources, and it's difficult for me not to say like, wow. Because like when I was in high school and when I was young, I struggled. So I'm just gonna give a quick synopsis because it's like 5 to 7 minutes, right? I was poured my first drink when I was 9 years old, right? Which is, when I was in recovery when my little boy turned 9. And that reality really hit, like, I couldn't even imagine being like, it's a tough week in 3rd grade. Let's wind down. It's time to wind down, right? But that was the culture in my family. But the other side, so like if you look, I'm from the mean streets of Middletown, you know, serious, right? So the culture in my family was we don't deal with problems. We don't talk about problems. If I was anxious or depressed or worried, I was called dramatic. I was taught to cover that feeling up real quick and put a smile on. So the reason that I feel it's so important to educate the community about that is because that's what kids go through, right? And I never had, there was a lot of abuse because there was a lot of substance use in my family. I've been the first one to find my way out. And my parents were super successful. So it's not like we came from, like, if you looked at my family and my household from the outside looking in, it looked picture perfect. And we presented ourselves as such. But as a person in high school, the second I got my hands on a substance, I was too afraid to tell anybody that I was really hurting. I was too afraid to tell anybody I was really struggling. I didn't have an adult to go to because the adults that I was looking towards told me not to, right? So as I've developed in this field, so I developed in my recovery, I didn't find recovery until I was 31 years old, thank God. I find the most important piece is exactly what we're doing tonight, right? Providing resources, talking to our kids, letting them know that there is help out there. I was talking to some of the kids here tonight, what incredible human beings with such opportunity in front of them. Communication is key. If somebody I used to get so mad because in recovery we have a saying that's said, we say like, lost dreams awaken and new possibilities arise. And when I first entered recovery, I hated that phrase. Because I didn't have any hopes, I didn't have any dreams, I had no goals. Because nobody ever said to me, what do you want to do? What do you like? What are you into? And I find the culture we're creating for our children today, we're asking those questions. We're trying to figure out who these individuals want to be 19, Saturday, and he knows what he wants to do. The beauty of what I've done with my life as a result of mental health professionals, places like CPC, I'm a proud alumni over here, is that we're creating change, right? Like they taught me how to talk to my son. They taught me how to be honest, open, communicative, and not to hide anything and try to crush that stigma a bit, because it's still there, we all know it, but we've come a long way, right? So now I have this beautiful gift of a career where I have the opportunity to be a treatment advocate. Well, now I manage other treatment advocates, but at heart I'm a treatment advocate. I meet an individual, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going directly to RCA, which I love where I work, but I meet the person, I find out what's going on, I talk to them, I get to know their families, and I get to help them make the appropriate decision on how to get them some help. So that to me is like, when I found out you could get paid to do that, I was doing that for years for free while I was working in facilities. I am. So that's really all I have to share. We have resources on the table. My card with my personal cell phone is on in any way that I can help. I'm always a phone call away. I know that when I was first coming into recovery, it was crucial for me to have somebody to talk to, and now I'm the person that has the ability to kind of help my family to the best of my ability. They're still a handful, but that's really all I have. Thanks so much for letting me share.
Thank you, Mike. So we have Pam Capacity. I've known Pam for quite some time, many, many years. We were both in the prevention world together. We've been doing this for a long time.
I think I have more than 30 years.
Yes, many. And by the way, another fun fact, Pam was the first in the state of New Jersey to develop a recovery high school in Union County. We have special drum at this table, everybody. Pam Capacity has held a leadership position in the nonprofit sector in New Jersey for her entire career. Pam specializes in generating diverse resources and innovative program designs to build the capacity of community-based organizations throughout New Jersey, and that is the truth.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm here tonight to talk about Hope Sheds Light. Hope Sheds Light is a community-based recovery center. We have a location, thanks to our friend and board member Nicole, right here in the community in Manasquan, which I think is actually Wall, and I still haven't figured that out. It's on Route 35, and what a community recovery center is an organization that is local and accessible and run by individuals, myself included, who have the lived experience of being either a person in recovery or a family member, and having a loved one or a friend or a neighbor who has life has been touched by addiction one way or another. But what I really, so Hope Sheds Light, in this community, you might know us as RAFS, Recovery Advocates for the Shore. Nicole is the founder of RAFS. The founders of Hope are 3 families who lost their children to drug overdoses during the heroin epidemic when it first started, and is now obviously still a big part of our reality. But what I really want to talk about is the obvious thing that's in the room. If this room should be filled, right? If you want to measure the magnitude of the impact of this epidemic on our families, then this room should be filled. And it's not filled because of fear, because of shame, because of anxiety, because of a lack of understanding and a focus on addiction. And what Hope wants to do is focus on recovery. Hope wants to introduce to the community the possibilities that come along with recovery. We want to flip the coin and talk about our experiences, the strength that we've developed because of our experiences, and the hope that we can offer other individuals so that we can overcome what stops people from reaching out for help sooner. That's, we call it stigma, but really stigma in a family of addiction shows up as secrets, fear, shame, anxiety. But hope in recovery is the antithesis of that. Hope does shed light. That's why it's our name. So when you call Hope, you get a person on the phone
who has lived experience, who's in recovery, who's had a child, a spouse, they themselves have walked the walk. We don't provide any clinical services, and we feel like we're a bridge. We're a safe place where you're going to see a face that looks like your face. You're going to hear a story that is your story. It's going to resonate so deep with you that you're going to trust us to lead you to the rightful source, a helpful source, like anybody on this panel, anybody in this school building, because there are a lot of unsafe, opportunistic predators really out there who also can offer support and really take advantage of you at your most vulnerable time. So we provide that vetted, safe, trusting service and resource and linkage to the proper people who can care for you. But most importantly, we're your first step in. Addiction hits a lot of people like a storm out of the blue, and they really don't know where to go, and they're fearful. That's why they're not here tonight. They don't want the school to know. They don't want the identity being labeled, and they don't want their health insurance to know. So they come to us first, because all we're offering is our experience, strength, and hope, and an avenue to the right resources. And that shows up in many ways. We have family support groups. We have assistance for young people whose parents are active addiction and they don't know where to turn to. We have social recreational opportunities for families who are starting out in recovery. What we do is we plant the seed of recovery instead of the seed of addiction. Instead of planting shame, we're planting hope. We're planting opportunity for success. We're planting joy. We're planting pride. We're helping people understand that recovery is something that they can be proud about. You know, your neighbor is in recovery. Your store owners are in recovery. Nobody is unaffected by this disease. So that's what I like to say about hope, that we're local, we're one of you, and hopefully if we keep this message going, that this room will get full of people who aren't ashamed of addiction but are proud of their recovery and can help other people find that pathway. And that's why we're here. Thank you.
Helped partner up last year to pull off our very first Light the Night for the Shore community, which is to raise awareness of opioid overdoses, to honor our loved ones who passed away either from an accidental overdose or from any loss in general. It's a beautiful fair that we had at the Lair Community Farm, so we will be doing that again this year. I'm going to hand this over now to Nicole Federici, who is a lifelong resident of Monmouth County, a mother of 3 boys, 2 of which battled with substance use. She's a board member of Hope Sheds Light and is passionate about supporting families whose loved ones suffer from any addiction.
So I'm a mom, basically. No letters after my name, no professional designation, but I do have a lot of lived experience. Like Alyssa said, I have 3 boys, 2 of which suffered from substance abuse. 1 pretty heavily while in high school, especially during his senior year. And I think my topic really is the lessons that I learned going through that. And since we only have a couple of minutes, I just jotted down a couple of things that I felt, would be most important. And one of the things I remember is, how do you know if it's really a problem, right? What does that look like? Well, for me, it looked like there was no consequence too big to make him stop, basically. There was nothing I could take away. There was no staying home for weeks on end that would make him stop going out and using. So for me, that was a really, really, really big red flag. There was nothing I could put in his way to make him stop. And, that was a big sign for me, because we had been to the therapist, we had been to counseling, we had done those things, and it just wasn't stopping. So that is one thing that I really wanted to share, you know, if you may be in that situation. The other thing is open lines of communication. So I wasn't probably the best communicator as a parent. I really saw my son as an extension of me and not his own unique, you know, individual. And I felt every failure was a reflection of me. And by going through this for 12 years with my boys, I really looked into how to openly communicate and positively communicate. And I learned a lot of things. I learned how to communicate with them so they would talk. There was a book that was written, what is the name of it? How to Speak So Your Kids Will Listen, Listen So Your Kids Will Speak. And it was written in like 1970s or something. I probably was 2 years old when it was written. And, but I saw it somewhere, and it was meant towards really young children, but it worked on older children as well. And I would really encourage people, if they're having a tough time communicating with their children, is pick up some of those resources. Google it. You know, what is positive communication? What does it look like? You know, am I hurting them, or am I helping them with my words and my actions? You know, am I giving them a vote of confidence, or am I making them feel like, you know, they're never going to be successful? So those, you could just Google it online and read a couple of books, and it really does help. It really does help. So that's another suggestion. Oh, my third one, you guys are going to love me. Trust the professionals. Amen, right? So as a parent, you always feel you know exactly what's best for your child, but sometimes you don't. And that takes a really, really hard look in the mirror about, as Pam alluded to, you know, are you not doing it because you're fearful? Do you feel like you're going to be judged by other people within the community, by other parents? Do you feel shame? Do you feel like a failure because your kid may suffer from substance use? And when you get to the professionals, you know, really trust what they say. You know, they're not emotionally tied to your child like we are. You know, the emotion, they can see it crystal clear, and when you remove that emotion, they're able to suggest honestly and truly what they feel is best for your child. And if you follow through, your results are going to be better than if you take the wheel yourself and you're dealing with emotion and fear and anxiety. Another one is listen and don't react. You know, I was just reacting to everything all the time. And my sons learned to, one more than the other, push my buttons, as they say. And when I learned not to react and just listen, you know, some change starts to take place when you change. When I changed my behaviors, they had to change their behaviors because they didn't know who they were dealing with anymore. And it was a new person, and so it yielded better results for them. And I think another thing is when you're going through this, you really have to have faith and realize that things are going to get better. Because sometimes when you're in the mix of it and you feel hopeless, which I have felt, you really have to have faith, you know, that this will pass, we'll get through it, we'll find the appropriate resources, we'll work together, I won't turn my back on you. Even when they probably feel like turning their back on themselves. And just to be a steady rudder in that ocean. It's like tossing everybody up and down. But, you know, the family unit, hopefully, you know, in healthy families is the strongest link. And I had to do my part to be that. I had to put the work in to be a healthy member of my own family. And that was through looking at myself honestly and seeking help where I needed help, so I was best able to help my children. So I'm a mom. You can call me and say anything you want. I have no affiliation with treatment centers, police, judges, courts, and I think that's really important because I know when I was in high school, I was always afraid of how much I shared with people and the effect that would have on my son. you know, and would they judge him or treat him differently knowing or giving him the information? And I think that's changed a lot over the years, so kudos to the schools on that. So, you know, I'm here in the community, I'm local, so if you know of anybody, please reach out. Drop a line.
Thank you. And yes, so Nicole actually has historically, since I first met her, I can't even remember how many years ago, but it's been a while. This is my 11th school year, so a long time. Nicole has historically allowed me to refer parents to her. So if they're going through a difficult time, she's one of the parents that I use to refer parents to talk to. So if anyone would like to talk to Nicole, you can either talk to her afterwards, or I can give you her phone number. She's very willing to listen. We have Kristen Myler, who is the Municipal Alliance Coordinator. She's been in this position for 22 years. I've had the privilege of working with her. This is my 11th school year with you, and you're amazing. You run a really it's a well-run alliance, I will say that, active.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I just want to say that I've been working with many of these people here in the schools and all of you for many, many years, and just I couldn't do my job without the support of all of you, including Alyssa and James, the police department. But I am your local resource. It's the Wall Community Alliance for the Prevention of Drug and Alcohol Abuse. Like she said, it's been 22 years I've been working in this community. I have a pretty good pulse on it. What we do is we are supported by a grant from the Governor's Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, and I wrote the grant from doing a needs assessment in this community to see what the actual needs are, and get an idea of what's going on in this community by data from the police department, talking to the schools, talking to community members. We even did a roundtable with just a broad cross section of the community, and got a really good idea of what the needs were, and that's how we wrote our programs. So the programs that we do in the community are based on our findings of what the community needed. So like I said, we are your local resource of things that the community needs in the schools, in the police, with the police department, even just regular community events. We work very closely with the township committee and the mayor. So we're really a great group of people. They're all volunteers from a broad cross section, and everyone on our committee is very works very closely with the programs and really helps out. Some of the programs that we do are Walls High School's Project Graduation. We've actually been doing that for over 30 years. I was looking today at some of the years back of Project Graduation, and even before myself, Project Graduation was going on at the Atlanta Club right here in Wall. And it's a fantastic event. It's an all-night celebration for the seniors so that they're not out on the streets drinking and drugging all night, and we keep them in. They can't escape. We have chaperones, and they have a really fun time. We make it fun with games and activities and all kinds of great stuff. So that's one of our programs we're very proud of, and we will continue to keep it going. We try to do programs in the schools from the youngest up to the highest, and one of our programs that we've been doing again for over 30 years is called Babes, and it's a puppet-based curriculum in all the 3rd grades. I'm sure if you're in the community, your kids have had Babes, and it's really fun for me because I used to be a facilitator. I don't do it anymore, I have someone else. But I used to see kids like in the grocery store that were like 16, 15, and they'd run up and be like, oh my gosh, you were my Babes instructor. So it definitely made an impact. It's kind of like a life skills program. It's 7 weeks of different lessons, and the kids really enjoy it. And like I said, it's in every 3rd grade in Wall Township. Some other programs, we work with the police department on Night Out Against Crime. We also do a very big event in the community called Kids Day America, which is also a fantastic event that I actually just had my 20th year of doing Kids Day America, and a lot of you here come to that. And what it is it's a health fair for children. We also have
prevention there, safety, police departments involved, doing car seat checks and other fun games with the kids. So it's a very interactive day where the parents can get information from doctors and dentists, and they leave with a lot of information, but they're also having a really, really good time. So there's lots of programs that we do in the community. Our grant is a 5-year based grant, so in 2 years we'll be rewriting it, and we'll be trying to determine the needs in the community, and hopefully, we'll get to address new things that are going on, like the fentanyl and the heroin. So our programs are definitely based on those different programs. We have funding for speakers that we work with Alysa with, and we also support the Delta Club as much as we can with funding. So we have funding that they can use to enhance their programs in the school.
That's pretty much what we do.
So the Wall Lines actually last week helped fund our guest speaker for Senior Certified Graduate Week. It was Sean Metz, and I will tell you that Sean Metz had such the attention of these kids that the senior class stayed an extra 10 minutes to listen to the rest of his work. So that's pretty amazing. So that was money well spent. And we think Wall School District that helped out as well. And then so anyway, without further ado, we're going to move on to Sue Malone, who is a certified school nurse and health educator with a master's degree in nursing and a bachelor's degree in mental health and rehabilitation. Let's hear. She is currently, Susan works as the clinical director for the Society for the Prevention of Teen Suicide, where she continues her passion for youth suicide prevention. But she started in Manasquan.
I actually started many, many years ago in the emergency rooms. I've been doing suicide prevention for about, believe it or not, I just counted yesterday, 42 years now. And so I started as a nurse, really on terminal oncology, where I really saw the survival instinct for people who were really clinging to life. And then I started to recognize suicide as a problem way back then. People weren't talking about it. And so once you see that survival instinct in a human really strong, you know that when people disconnect to it, it's not natural. And so this is one of the reasons I got into suicide prevention and started working for years in emergency rooms, eventually speaking and teaching at the University of Medicine and Dentistry. And Manasquan was actually a break from psychiatry that I thought I was getting into as a certified school nurse. I took the job because I thought I'd have summers off. I entered that school and we ended up with one of the largest teen suicide contagions ever recorded in the country to this day. We lost 12 students between the years of 2008 and 2012, mostly by train. And in that experience, I knew that the universe was not letting me out of psychiatry, and there was so much more work to be done. In 5 minutes today, I'm trying to think about what I can say to you. And really, I don't think there's anything I can say that you don't already know. If you've lived in our communities, you've heard about the losses, you know what's going on, and you know it's real, it's serious. In my 42 years, I have never seen it like I have seen it since September of this year. We've lost 8 kids just in our communities between Monmouth and Middlesex and Ocean County that I know of, and I don't know of everyone. So my point is this to the parents. It's a real problem, but it's a preventable problem, and that's the good news. And the good news also is that for the first time, we are listening and talking to kids in ways I've never seen before. The television is talking about talking to your kids, right? We are open to the conversation. Once we open to this conversation, we will, and we will tonight, save lives. Once you start to understand that really what kids need is that open, honest, non-judgmental discussion, and not advice, and not how to fix things, but how to talk about their problems, and to recognize that they have the strengths within to solve their problems. So what I know is that suicide is not a desire to die. It is having intense emotional pain with impaired problem-solving skills. So when I say that, that means that every one of us in the field of helping kids solve problems and parents are in the prevention world every single day. You don't have to have a high degree to save someone's life. All you have to do is listen and know enough to get help. So tonight what I wanted to tell you about is that all high school, and thanks to, in part to the Crimson Knights, we developed, so the Society for the Prevention of Teen Suicide, we are not direct service like all these other folks up here. We are about education and training, and we will teach your parents in your schools, your students, people in your community, teachers. That's what we do. So we had developed a resource after hearing for years, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do, I don't know when to worry. So during the pandemic, we developed a resource that one of them goes into the emergency rooms to help parents when they are in that critical state, and the other one is for schools. And so Crimson Knights gave us some money. The state has also given money so that every 6th grader in the state of New Jersey has this. And really what it is a resource. What to do, what to ask, what to expect, what questions does everyone else have, how to understand this, what are the resources. But the first line of this is one of the most powerful lines. You know, and if you're reading this and your child has some behavioral health issues, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And I really need you to hear that. And once people really understand it's not your fault, and that there is stigma and shame attached to asking for help, but it's not your fault, you will move forward and do what you need to do. And the other thing that I really want to say before I wrap up, and I know it's a long night, is that mental health, if you start to view mental health in the same ways that you view physical health, you will know what to do. If your child had a virus or came to you with a stomach ache, the first 3 days you'd probably say, this has got a stomach virus, it's not a big deal. If they continued to have pain in their stomach after a week or so, you'd say, well, maybe there's a protozoa or something going on in their stomach, and maybe I should think about asking for some consult here, right? If that stomach pain continued for 10 days, you'd be like, something's wrong. And if it went on for 2 weeks, you'd probably have them in the emergency room, if not at the doctor's. It's the same thing with mental health. 2 weeks. If your child's behavior changes, and in this booklet are the warning signs, for over 2 weeks, stop what you're doing and ask yourself what's going on. And start to have that open conversation. You know, I've noticed you're not yourself. And I want to hear what's going on. Not that I want to tell you what to do. I want to know what's going on. And that conversation, tell me more. No advice, no judgment. Tell me more about what's going on. Once we start to understand we can have these conversations, we will reach our children and we will save lives. Suicide is the second leading cause of death amongst our youth. I never can say that without pause. It's preventable. Second leading cause of death. We can do better. We are going to do better. So here's what I have to say after 42 years. I've never been more optimistic in my life. I've never, and I mean this, never has more attention been put on this. This has been going on a long time. Our state legislators, county legislators have backed the behavioral health toolkit. They want resources in the parents' hands. There is Perform Care. No matter, if you have no resources, financial resources, you can get help. They can come to your home, they can screen, they can talk, they can give you counseling for weeks on end. There's no one that should use financial barriers as a barrier to getting help. So I want you to understand that, and there is help, there is second floor youth help on your children are a text away from a professional. A phone call away, and so are you. I could go on and on. But know that this resource is out there. And also the only other thing I want to say is we do run a youth council once a month where we teach kids about mental health wellness, not suicide, wellness in all spheres of their lives. And we're really open to bringing kids into that youth council. And from what I'm hearing, they really like it. I know I really love it because one thing I do miss about teaching and being a school nurse is the kids. They are our greatest resources. And once we teach them to keep their eyes on their friends, we won't have to worry so much. They will come to us as trusted adults and let us know what they're seeing, because believe me, they are seeing it. So anyway, thanks so much. I know in the end, suicide at the end, but why not?
Welcome, everybody. Microphone. I like standing up and talking about this thing, so maybe we'll do that. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. It's kind of weird being here now, being a 2000 graduate with the wall, sitting in these seats and thinking that I'd be sitting up here someday, 22 years later, but here I am. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I encourage everybody here, and you're here because you care. If you have questions about what's going on in this town, I encourage you to reach out to us. We're big in reaching out to the community now. My involvement with the community and with the police department growing up, as a kid here with the DARE program, everybody kind of remembers that, right? DARE's been around for such a long time. I remember my DARE officer, Eric Earl. He's since retired and living in Manitowoc now, and out of school in 1990. That was the end of it. Since I've come on, I've had the ability and the opportunity to be in the schools and to teach about drugs. As a drug recognition expert, the first one in Wall Township, we now have 7. I have the ability to sit down with somebody and do a 20-minute evaluation and actually say what kind of drug they're on without them telling me. Now that can be kind of scary, right? But the reality is that there's people out driving around in our streets, walking around in our streets that are under the influence of these drugs. We want to try to find out what it is they're on and try to talk to them and figure out where they got it from and how they got it. Some of the things that kind of stuck out to me tonight. As a young officer hired in 2004, 2005, my biggest thing was I wanted to clean my town. Right? I thought that I'm going to go out there. I couldn't wait. I was so happy to be in this uniform. I was so happy to represent my town. Again, in 2000, I thought I was going to go to college, play college football, and I was never going to come back here. But here I am. My wife's a 2002 graduate. She teaches in the intermediate school, and we're raising our kids here. So we didn't go very far. We really, truly do care about this community. We really do want to help. So, now, with the help of the Wall Community Alliance and Alysa, and our involvement with the school's been great with us, with the administration. We not only have DARE, which is now moved itself into LEAD, which is a 5th grade program. We teach the entire 5th grade, give them an awesome picnic at the end of the year. A picnic is our thing. Picnic up at the Oak Tree Lodge. We are in the intermediate school. We're in there talking about dating. We're talking about the initial things that we're seeing 11, 12, 13-year-old kids get themselves into that start spiraling out of control. And then in the high school, we started to develop programs where we're talking with the juniors about drinking and driving because they're starting to get their license at that point. We're talking to them about marijuana and driving. We're talking to them about drugs, initial stuff about drugs. But then when you get to the senior, when you become a senior, we brought a program in here called Not Even Once, which the Wall Community Alliance has been awesome for supporting us with it. It was a program that was designed down in Manchester. We do it for the seniors because we feel like they're mature enough to handle that stuff. And as officers, we go in there, I'm not wearing this. I don't want to scare kids. I don't want to scare seniors because they see us walking in and they see the big white cowboy hat and they think, oh, it's the big bad wolf police, I don't want to talk to them. Well, we come in in polo shirts. we don't have guns, we don't have badges. We put a PowerPoint up, I put a picture of my kids up there playing ball soccer, playing ball football, playing ball bat baseball, us coaching. I put a picture up of my high school graduation picture. This was me, I was in these seats too. Just like you. I'm not a big bad ball person. I want to give that opportunity, we want to give that opportunity for these students to be able to sit there and have a conversation with them. And the Not Even Once program is specifically based on heroin and opioids and how people can fall into that addiction. And our hope is, it's not just going out and arresting people, it's the education of it. The kids have some awesome questions. We have officers, me included, when they hear that, I've never known my biological father because he was mad. Right? My mom had me at 18, raised me. She did an awesome job. I say that now. Until she met my stepdad, who is my dad. I don't know my dad because of addiction, so it affects me. And I want them to understand that us as officers, we're people too. We have an officer, a sergeant, who lost a brother to a heroin overdose. And when she tells these kids that, they're like, wow. She puts pictures up of her brother. This is my brother. This is the stuff we used to do together. And then she's like, he's no longer with us. He died of heroin overdose. I never would have guessed that in my entire life. And now I'm here as a police officer. We have many officers with stories like that. And at the end of the program, once we go through everything, we kind of show them what heroin is, what it looks like. We actually show people overdosing on heroin, what they look like. It's an eye-opening experience. We show a police officer who touches heroin. Because the fentanyl that's in it is transdermal, and it leaks through your skin and gets into your bloodstream. We show a police officer in full uniform overdose. And they administer Narcan and throwing up. So yeah, it's a very mature subject, but it's something that I feel like, for me personally, it's something that I didn't have an experience with, growing up in this town. I had the air program and puppets and stuff, that was great. But, when it got to that time in high school, I don't know if anybody remembers that they were in this town during that time, but there was this big Gypsy League thing going around. And Gypsy League was a national news, right? These kids were eating these seeds out of these plants that grew in the woods here in Wall. And they were hallucinating, and some of them were dying. And they simply just said to us, if you just touch this plant, it could happen to you too. And that's when I immediately said, I've seen this thing before, I don't want to go anywhere near it, right? I don't want this to happen. By us telling them that, by touching that first bag, just touching it, and they see a police officer overdosing on it, their eyes just go wide open, and they have any questions. So, I think the biggest thing that I try to get across to everybody is, our department, it's not just us out there. It's not just us out there trying to enforce laws, being this big bad police department. We do want to educate. We do want to help. I can't tell you how many times I've had parents in this town come to me and say, I think my child's going down a bad road, and you just talk to them. Can we bring them in? We had a conversation with Alysa about this the other day. If that's something that you see coming, there's plenty of kids that I had a parent the other day, a son got caught big, and you just had a conversation with him. He came in and he was great. Had a million questions like, what happens? What happens with stuff like this? And we'll do that. So there's plenty of resources out there for you. I don't want everybody to look at us and think that, we're just out there stopping cars and that we're, enforcing laws. We're here to help. So please use us. Use anybody out here. I can't tell you what changed my career, because I was all about arresting people for DWI and arresting people for drugs. It was tops of the county, tops of the state, and this stuff. When I changed was when I first passed that first time that I arrested for a large amount of heroin that they had on me. Why do you do this? And I started asking every single one of them. Because you start to find out, the best thing I heard today was it's not your fault. It's not. You start to realize that this is a disease and it's not good bad. There's plenty of bad people in this world that break into cars and break into houses and steal things. But when you find out that someone that has an addiction, you realize that they're not a bad person, they're just trying to survive. Right? And our job is to try to get them off of that and try to find out where they're getting, take the real people off the streets of the dealers. Prior to COVID, I had the opportunity to run our undercover drug unit here. I know you think of Wall Township, there's no way this stuff's here. It is. We identified stamps that were killing people, stamps and heroin that were killing people, and traced it back to houses and walls that we kicked in the door. And we looked located thousands of bags of this stuff in Walmart. It's here. Our motels, they're not the greatest places in the world. Right? They don't attract the best of people sometimes. There's good people in there, but it also attracts the bad. We have a very safe town, an awesome town. I love it. Love everything about it. That's why my kids are here. That's why I work here. That's why my wife works here. But know that it is here. It is something that we're aware of. Ever since the legalization of weed, our numbers are down in terms of drug arrests. But I will tell you, there's probably over 500 arrests this year already. 150 with DWI. And understand that people that we arrest with DWI, it's not just alcohol. And that's why I'm a drug recognition expert, because the thing that we see is multi-drug use, polydrug use. It's not just marijuana, it's marijuana and pills. It's marijuana and cocaine, it's marijuana and alcohol. We're seeing all this stuff mixed together. So it is out there, it is here. We are doing our job out in the street, but we also are here to do the job inside the schools and educate the kids as well. If you guys have questions for me, please ask. If you're too embarrassed to do it in front of everybody, I'll give you my email. You can come into my office and have a seat. I'll introduce you to our juvenile detectives, which are two great guys, constantly in and out of our schools. They do an awesome job. One of them is supposed to be here tonight, but we get a baby unexpectedly quickly. Not unexpectedly. Quicker than anything. I apologize for him not being here last minute, but if you guys have anything, please just know that I don't want you ever to think of us and think that you can't ask us questions. Because we are here, we are making a plan. Okay, thank you.
I do have some questions. Can you guys hear me? You can? Oh, wait.
It helps to